beach, you couldn't understand, you couldn't refute me with ayah in the Quran or source in the hadith that says word for word that the Quran is uncreated. So there you go, you got exposed my food. Exactly, my beach. So if you cannot refute me by providing a full, you want me to bring you a full hadith that says word for word, it's, you will not be able to find hadith word for word or ayah word for word that says the Quran is uncreated. So you got exposed by your own method. So the ulama did istinbat. Istinbat means using the ayat of the verses of beating. وَاللَّاتِ تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ, right? Those who you fear their arrogance or their disobedience, فَعِظُوهُنَّ وَهْجُرْهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ, right? To beat them. And the Prophet, there's many hadiths saying that the woman must never reject the husband when he calls her for sexual intercourse, because then the husband will go and commit what is worse, which is zina, right? Which he might be looking at pictures on his phone, or might be committing zina, or might be committing fornication by relieving himself if his wife refuses. And as we know, men have more sexual desires, so you got exposed by that, my fool. Another thing, my beach, to keep in mind is that, let's say for example, a man gets in the war booty so many sex slaves, or he gets a sex slave. And this sex slave, this man, during the war, he killed her father, and he killed her family, right? During jihad. And this sex slave refuses to have intimacy with that man, and says, I will never have intimacy with you at all. Can a man force her or not? Yes, it's legal in Islam to force her, because then every sex slave in the whole world, if a man gets, and it's his rightful duty to, have intercourse with her, and she refuses, then that's not, basically no man will be able to have intercourse with any sex slaves. So it's also exposed. No, again, my beach, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, another hadith says, she must obey him. She must obey him, even if he calls her while she's on her camel, right, on the saddle. So in this hadith, it says, if the husband wishes to refuse, if he wishes to refuse, and he stays angry with her just to be kind with her, then that will be the case. But again, my fool, the Quran says, those whom you fear arrogance from, then beat them. But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ never beated his woman. How come the Quran says you're allowed to beat them? So this is a rukhsa, my fool. It doesn't mean a complete thing that you said. So you can't use this one hadith, because this same hadith refutes you, right? The same hadith refutes you, because there's an ayah in the verse, those whom you fear arrogance from, advise them, then stay away from them, from their beds, then at the end, beat them, right? But at the end of the day, a husband can beat his wife whenever he wishes, whenever she disobeys him, right? Because there's another hadith that says, and I will use it in another video, there's another hadith, my beach, that says that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that you have to place the whip, the flog, in front of all your household for on somewhere, have to tie it somewhere, because for it is adab for them. It is a means to make their manners upright. So in this case, you can force them, right? You can force them. But the Prophet says, if there was a situation where the husband doesn't want to beat her, right? Just doesn't want to beat her, like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, if he never beated any woman, right? But the Quran gives a rukhsa, right? It says you can beat them, right? Because not all the women are like the wife's household or the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's household, right? So you can beat them in this case. So this hadith that you showed, it gets refuted by other verses in the Quran, other hadiths as well. Even as Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, the Sahabi Zubayr, used to take a wood and break it on his wives whenever they disobey him, whenever they don't fulfill his desires. He would use it, he would take this whip and he would break it on her. Not whip, he would take this wooden stick and break it on her. So this is also another example from the Sahaba. So in the end of the day, you cannot refute that.
إذا مرت الجماع يجبرها، إذا ما في مانع يجبرها. إن كان يضرها أو يمنعها عن فرض فلا يجوز يجبرها، وإلا فله الحق.
تمام؟ بالعافية. والله
نحن نتحدى أهل البدع والأهواء، أهل البدع العقائدية وأهل البدع السياسية. نقول بيننا وبينكم السلف، بيننا وبينكم الفكر.